Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday. Today we are learning the 10th Perek of the Trumos, and Rich Hashem, tomorrow we'll be finishing Trumos and starting Meiser Sheni, Meisrus on Friday. Mishnah Aleph, Perek in Mishnah Aleph starts off talking about foods, Kulin foods that absorb the flavors of Truma, to the extent that the flavor can be detected in the Kulin food. Therefore, the food must be treated as Truma and may not be eaten as a non-kohanim. So here we go. Batzel shenasnu besoch adashim. If a Truma onion was put into Kulin lentils, the law is as follows. Im shalim mutter. If the onion is whole, it's permitted for a non-kohen to eat the lentils because the onion does not give flavor to the lentils. But if the onion was cut up before putting it into the lentils, then the lentils are usher to a non-kohen. If the flavor of the flavor of the onion can be detected in the lentils. So it really depends on if you can detect the flavor or not. But regarding any other cooked food, that is meaning that if any other truma vegetable, such as garlic or leek, was placed in a pot of chulin lentils, ben shalim ben mechuta benosin tam. Whether the vegetables are whole or cut up, the lentils are forbidden to a non-kohen if the flavor of the vegetable can be detected in the lentils. The difference between onions and the other vegetables is that onions do not give flavor when they're cooked with the lentils, but other vegetables do give flavor when they're cooked together with lentils. Therefore, they must be tasted by a kohen to see if they absorbed the taste of the truma vegetable. And if they did, then they are forbidden to a non-kohen. Very interesting. Rabbi Yehuda matir bid sachna. Rabbi Yehuda permits in the case of sachna. Sachna, it's a type of pickled fish, presumably herring, maybe, that was put into a utensil with a truma onion. The sachna is permitted to a non-kohen, even though it absorbed the flavor of the truma onion. She'eno elolito as a zuma, because the onion is put in only to remove the bad smell of the tzachana, and it does not improve its flavor. Since the flavor of the truma, the onion, does not improve the tzachana, excuse me, it does not forbid the tzachana to a non-kohen. Okay. Tapuach sherisko nasno lesoch isav v'chimsa. If an apple of truma was crushed and placed into a dough of chulin, and the apple caused the dough to leaven, harezu asur, then the dough is forbidden to a non-kohen. Even if it tastes, even if the taste of the apple, it cannot be detected in the dough. Why? Since the apple causes the dough to rise, it is considered a significant ingredient of the dough and is not bottled. Therefore, a non-kohen may not eat it. Next case in the Mishnah, Seorim Shinafu Socha Bor Shamayim. If barley of Truma fell into a pit of water, even though the water absorbed so much of the taste of the barley that it became spoiled because of the barley flavor, the Yamav Mema Mutarin, its water is permitted to a non-kohen, since the flavor of the barley does not improve the taste of the water, but instead it spoils the water. It does not forbid the water to a non-kohen. Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah Dalet discuss whether chulin that has absorbed the aroma of truma is forbidden to a non-kohen. So Mishnah Gimel, Harode Paschama, if one removes hot chulin bread from an oven, V'nasna al pi chavish al yayin truma, and places it on the opening of a barrel that contains wine of truma, the law is as follows. Rabbi Meir Oser, The Meir forbids the bread to a non-kohen, since it was hot, since the bread was hot and placed on an open barrel of wine, it absorbed the aroma of truma, and therefore a non-kohen may not eat it. Rabbi Yehuda Matir, Rabbi Yehuda allows it because he holds that the aroma of truma that was absorbed in a chulin food does not forbid it to a non-kohen. Rabbi Yossi Matir b'shalchitim. Rabbi Yossi permits the bread if it's made of wheat, because the aroma of the wine that is absorbed in the bread is permitted. The Oser b'shal seorim, but he forbids bread made of barley. B'fnei shal seorim shavavos, because barley bread draws in the moisture of the wine. In such a case, the barley contains not only the aroma of the truma, but the actual moisture of the truma as well. Therefore, is usher to a non-kohen. Mishnah Dalet. Taner shehisiko Taner shehisiko bekamon shel truma v'afabo. If an oven was fired up with cumin of truma, mean that the cumin that the cumin of truma was used as a fuel for the fire of the oven, and someone baked bread of Kulin in it, hapas mutaris, and the bread is permitted to a non-kohen. She'ain tam kamon ela reach kamon, because the bread does not have any flavor of cumin in it, rather the aroma, and the aroma of truma is mutter to a non-kohen. Excuse me. Mishnah Hey. Till son shenaflo l'sochabor shel yayin, if fenugreek fell into a pit containing chulin, wine, then the law is as follows. Truma or mashasheni, if it was fenugreek that was from truma or from mashasheni, im yesh bezera kedelitin tam, we calculate whether the fenugreek seeds can give flavor to the wine. Avalo be'etz, but we do not take into account whether the stalks can give flavor to the wine. Since the stalks cannot be eaten, or not eaten, they are not subject to truma and mashasheni. Therefore, only the flavor contributed by the seeds needs to be considered. Therefore, we measured the wine and the seeds. But if the seeds alone cannot give flavor to the wine, then the wine is mutter, even though the seeds and stalks together give flavor to the wine. B'shviyis, karim, and if the fenugreek was from Shemitah or from Kilaim of the vineyard, meaning that it grew near a grapevine, or is from Hektish that fell into the wine, so we measure whether the seeds and the stalks of the fenugreek together can give flavor to the wine. Since the fenugreek stalks are subject to the laws of Shivius, Kilaim of the vineyard, and Hektish, and the flavor of the stalks must also be taken into account. Mishnah Vav. Mishahayu lo chavile tilton b'klei karim. If someone has bundles of fenugreek of kilaim of the vineyard, yidleiku, then the law is that they must be entirely burned with the stalks. That is because the laws of kilaim of the vineyard apply even to the inedible parts of the plant. Hayilo chavili tilson shel tevel. If one has bundles of fenugreek of tevel, kosei, she may pound them to remove the fenugreek seeds from the stalks in order to separate truma only from the seeds. And then estimate how many seeds they contain. Umarfish as a zera, he then separates some of the seeds as truma, He does not, however, need to separate some of the stalks as truma because only edible items are subject to the chiyuv of truma, and stalks are not edible. Therefore, he may remove the seeds from the stalks and separate truma from them alone. If we separated truma from fenugreek plants without first removing the seeds, lo yomar echto ito as within ezazera. He may not say, I will now pound the fenugreek that I separated as truma to remove the seeds, and I will take the stalks for myself and give only the seeds as truma to a kohen. Rather, he gives the stalks to a kohen along with the seeds, although there is no obligation to give truma from the stalks if he did not first remove the seeds, but instead he designated the entire fenugreek plant as truma. Then he must give both the seeds and the stalks to a kohen. Mishnah Zion. They say Kulin shekivshan and they say truma. We're going back now to the laws of Kulin that absorb the flavor of truma and discuss how the flavor can be transferred through pickling. So, say Chulin Shekivshan and Zay Truma regarding Chulin olives that were pickled with Truma olives. Pitsue Chulin in Pitsue Truma, crushed Chulin olives that were pickled with crushed Truma olives. Pitsue Chulin in Shalme Truma, or crushed Chulin olives that were pickled with whole Truma olives. Or Truma, or even crushed Kulin olives that were pickled in water that have been used previously for pickling Truma olives. Also, they're also to a non-kohanim. Avashal mechulin in Pitsui Truma, but whole Kulin olives that were pickled even with crushed Truma olives, mutter, they are permitted to a non-kohanim because whole olives do not absorb flavor through pickling. And Mishnah Ches. Dog Tame Shekif Shulim Dog Tar. If a non-kosher fish was pickled along with many kosher fish in one barrel, then the law regarding the brine that's in the barrel is as follows. Kol Garav Shul Maxik Sasain. Any barrel that holds 2 saw brine, in Yeshbo Mishkal Asara Zuz, Bihuda Shehin Chamish Slime Begalil Dog Tame. If the amount of non-kosher fish brine in the barrel equals the weight of 10 Judean zoos, which is the equivalent of 5 Galilean slime. The 10 Judean zoos equals a 20 Galilean zoos. The Tosfos says that a zuz and a sela are different coins. Okay, 1 sela equals 4 zuz, and the coins used in Judea were larger than those that were used in the Galil, and weighed double the amount. So therefore, 10 Judean zuz equals 20 zuz from the Galil, which comes out to 5 slime from the Galil. Okay, parenthetically. So, so if the amount of non-kosher fish brine in the barrel equals the weight of 10 Judean zoos, which is the equivalent of 5 Galilean shaloim, and the rest of the barrel contains kosher fish brine, Siru Aser, all the brine in the barrel is prohibited. Rabbi Yehuda says the Revius that the brine is prohibited only if there is a Revius and non-kosher fish brine in a barrel containing 2 saw of Revius, then the brine is mutter. Rabbi Yossi says, the brine is prohibited only if the non-kosher brine is 1/16 of all the brine in the barrel. However, if the non-kosher brine is less than a 16th of the total brine, then the brine is mutter. Mishnah Tes Chagavim Tmeim. Sorry. Chagavim Tmeim Shenichbeshu Im Chagavim Tahorim. If non-kosher grasshoppers were pickled with kosher grasshoppers, low pasul as serum. Non-kosher grasshoppers do not prohibit the brine, meaning that the brine may be eaten even though some of it came from non-kosher grasshoppers. Why? Because the brine of a non-kosher grasshopper is an entity, and therefore kosher brine. Teaching from his cohort, be considered even if it's not mixed with kosher all. Ella mutarim ella imchasis. Regarding all types of chulin vegetables and truma vegetables that are pickled together, the law is that the chulin vegetables are permitted to a non-kohen, except for those pickled with a sharp vegetable, such as an onion or garlic, because the sharp vegetable can transfer its flavor through pickling. Chasis shel chulin in chasis shel truma, a sharp vegetable of chulin that was pickled together with a sharp vegetable of truma, yarek shel chulin in chasis shel truma, or a vegetable of chulin which is not sharp that was pickled with a sharp vegetable of truma, asur is forbidden to a non-kohen. The truma vegetable, which is sharp, transfers its flavor to the chulin vegetable. This is true whether the chulin vegetable is sharp or not. Alachasis, so chulin in yarek shel truma mutter, but a sharp vegetable of chulin that was pickled with the vegetable of truma that is not sharp is mutter. The truma vegetable is not sharp, does not release any flavor, even if the chulin vegetable is okay. Yossi says, "Kol nishlakim im hatardim taradim asurim." Anything that was well cooked with taradim or truma is forbidden to a non-kohen. What's a taradim? Taradim are a type of sharp beets. So mifnei shehu nostin as hatam, because teradim give flavor to whatever is cooked with them, and therefore if chulin vegetables were cooked in a pot with vegetables of truma, 1 second, teradim give flavor to whatever is cooked with them, but the other vegetables do not. Therefore, if chulin vegetables were cooked in a pot with vegetables of truma, then a non-kohen may eat the chulin vegetables. Rabbi Shimon says, "Kruv shel shikya in kruv shel bal aser." If a chulin cabbage grown in an irrigated field was cooked together with a truma cabbage grown in a rainwater field, then the chulin cabbage is aser for a non-kohen. Why? You absorbs flavor from the truma cabbage, which is moist, and therefore it's aser. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Kol hamisbashlim, kol hamisbashlim ze mutarim." When any two foods of the same type, with one which is forbidden and the other permitted, are cooked together, the permitted foods remain permitted, because the flavor does not prohibit a mixture of two foods of the same type. However, if if permitted meat is cooked with usher meat, then the permitted meat becomes usher. Because in such a situation, some flavor is added by the meat that is usher. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, "Kavid oseres non-kosher liver that was cooked with permitted foods prohibits the other foods. Since the flavor of the liver enters the permitted food, it makes it prohibited. The anon seres, but kosher liver does not become forbidden if it is cooked with forbidden food. Because that's because liver releases the flavor but does not absorb flavor. The liver, because it contains a very large amount of blood, which it constantly releases when it's cooking. This prevents the liver from absorbing flavor from other foods. Therefore, while it releases its own flavor into other foods, it does not absorb flavor. And finally, Mishnah Yebei's Beita Shenis Bashla Betavlin Asurin. If an egg was cooked with forbidden spices, I feel Chamon Shah Asur. The law is that even its yolk, and certainly the white part too, is Asur. There's Neshu Boleh because it absorbs the flavor of the forbidden spices. Although the white of the egg separates the yolk and the outer surface of the egg, the flavor of the spices reaches the yolk and forbids it. And finally, me shalakus to make lessons of truma, the water of well cooked truma vegetables and the water of pickled truma vegetables, asurim azarim, they are forbidden to non-kohanim because the water absorbs the flavor of the truma. Thank you for joining us. We will see you tomorrow as we finish this Masechta together. Have a wonderful day.